What's going on, guys? All right, today's show, as always, is brought to you by ThriveFantasy.com. It's DFS for prop bets. Visit ThriveFantasy.com or download the app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code Armchair and receive an instant match up to $50. Choose your 10 favorite prop bets to build your lineup and compete against the rest of the field for cash prizes. Again, sign up today at thrivefantasy.com or download the app for iOS or Android. Use promo code Armchair and get your instant match. All right, guys, we have a great show today. It is actually going to be our last show of 2020. We won't return again until January 6th of next year. So we're going to make it a big one tonight. We got a great guest coming on, someone from Going for Two. So hold tight, stay tuned, and we'll be right with you.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 188 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can find me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live every Wednesday and Friday night, despite what the intro music says. That's one of my off-season things to take care of, is get that intro music fixed so it actually says Wednesday and not Tuesday anymore. Of course, we are always on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and syndicated in all major podcast networks, including iTunes, Spotify, the whole nine, and streaming in the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Steerfoss. Ryan, what's up, man? I think you're on mute, Ryan.
Such an amateur move again. Everything's going good, man. I got snow. I got fantasy football playoffs. Ravens just won the most exciting game of the year. Fantastic, dude.
Yeah, that was an awesome...
And I flipped a nice 3-point lead in our pick'ems.
Yeah, you had an awesome week. We were tied going into this week, and yeah, you crushed it. You had, 13 right? I got 10 right, so you're up by 3 now.
Yeah, I got 13. I mean, 10's not even a bad week.
Yeah, I know. I had a good week, and you crushed me still. I thought I was doing pretty well. All right, also joining us tonight, Going for Two's own. He has just joined us recently. He's also the host of the 14 Personnel podcast. He's a writer, of course, for Going for Two, and he will soon be a host of one of our off-season shows called The Dynasty Gambit. You could follow him on Twitter at Marco_14P. Marco, what's going on, man?
Hey, not too much, man. I'm excited to hang out with you guys. I haven't gotten to do this yet, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, glad to have you on, man. So real quick, give us a kind of a rundown what 14 Personnel is, and then just kind of what you do at Going for Two and what you plan to do with the new podcast coming out.
Yeah, definitely. So me and my brother, as well as two of my college buddies, we started 14P this season. So we're in our first season here, coming to a close, and basically we do lots of redraft stuff. We got episodes coming out every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wow.
Right now, and then in the off season we'll probably be going to 2 days a week, and so we'll probably be coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But we also, over at 14personnel.com, we got articles, we got rankings that come out every week, and we just added a bunch of new guys to write for us over there. And then I just joined you guys really recently at Going for Two, and that has been awesome. So I've been writing Dynasty articles, and with the kind of the restructure we're doing, I'm hanging out with Dan quite a bit, which has been a good time. And then, of course, we've got our off-season Dynasty Gambit pod coming up, where we get to break down, people's Dynasty rosters, give advice, tips, and tricks. And it's me and two other guys who are awesome that can break down, injury stuff and dive into some stats. So it's gonna be a good show. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, definitely is gonna be a lot of show. It's Hamid, if y'all know him. He's actually from the Sunday show. And then Dr. Jim, as we like to call him in the Going for Two, he's going to be on there as well. It's going to be a great show. All right, we got a jam-packed show. We got to get through all 32 teams, so let's go ahead and jump right into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, News and Notes is brought to you by our new sponsor, the Original Craft Beer Club. 12 beers a month. Sign up at goingfor2.com/getbeer. You get free shipping and up to 3 gifts. It makes for a great Christmas present. Again, that's goingfor2.com/getbeer to claim your free gifts and get free shipping. All right, so the first note I have on here, Ryan, Raheem Mostert did not practice. His ability to play this weekend is in doubt. What does that do if you're a Jeff Wilson owner? Do you think that puts him in a startable position for the playoffs?
Honestly, in theory it does, because you think he would have the lion's share of the carries and get all the attention, but I've come to the point where I just don't trust a 49ers running back. If I have the opportunity to not start one, I'm skipping that. Like, I just don't trust it. I'd love to. You might know better than me because that's your team, but dude, it's a mess there. Like, fantasy purpose-wise, other than Ayuk, and if Kittle ever comes back, like, do you trust anybody?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think even if Mostert is out, I believe Tevin Coleman is still out too. They'll find somebody else to put in there. They don't like having just one running back. They'll pull some off the practice squad. It'll be Jeff Wilson plus, and I don't know if you could trust him really. So yeah, I'm with you. I think if you had Raheem Mostert as the starter at the beginning of the season, chances are you've already been going without him for the most of the season anyway. So you've kind of already gotten used to it. So you probably have somebody you can play instead of him. So I would just play somebody else and just avoid the situation altogether. I left this one for you, Marco, because Ryan's the Ravens fan, so I want to get his opinion on it too. But I want to talk to you first about it. The Ravens wide receivers, basically all of them except I think Willie Snead, is all on the COVID list. What does that do for that offense in general? Like, I don't think you're probably starting Boykins or Duvernay anyway, but Hollywood Brown's there, obviously, and then, of course, the guys that are still playing. What's it do for those guys?
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, when you look at this Ravens team and, you know, what these wide receivers have really been able to do for fantasy, it's nothing, like you said. So fantasy-wise, you're not losing a wide receiver. I think it kind of affects Lamar, but really, I mean, in a really good game for him last week, or this past week, we saw that what he does is he doesn't really throw to his wide receivers anyway. So I don't think he's drastically affected by much of this because he's going to Mark Andrews, the running backs, or he's doing it himself. So ultimately, I don't think he's really affected too much when it comes to losing some of these guys. It might make the running game a little bit more of a challenge, but still, that's what they do best, and they're going to keep doing that well.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan, let me ask your opinion real quick on that one. Willie Snead, does that make him appealing at all, other than DFS?
No. I mean, no, not at all. Duvernay wasn't one of the COVID guys, by the way.
Oh,
it was Prochet.
Prochet. I knew it was one of the rookies. I couldn't remember which one it was.
I'm really excited for Duvernay, for him to actually maybe get an opportunity to have an expanded role, just because he has shown flashes, but I want nothing to do with any of them in fantasy. I'm cool with Lamar, Andrews, Dobbins, and possibly Gus Edwards, because he's been kind of getting the red zone work and carries. Jacksonville's actively trying to lose, so the running backs could have a huge game. And if Baltimore gets up big, which they should, it could be a Gus Edwards game. But any of the other guys, I'm not really.
Let me ask you one more thing, too, because we saw your backup to your backup quarterback get hurt this past week. Do they protect Lamar Jackson a little bit, you think? You think that he doesn't run quite as much as he normally does?
Honestly, no. I think you just have to let Lamar play how he does. You can't take the chance. He doesn't take a lot of big hits, even though he runs the way he does. I don't think it changes anything. I think the opponent may slow down the running a little bit because they may not have to, but Lamar's going to play like Lamar. It's just how it is. Greg Roman doesn't believe in anything else. So,
yep. Yeah, I think Terrell Owens said it a while back. That he says the moment you try to play to not get hurt is the moment you get hurt. So I think you're right. I think they just play the way they're going to play him. He's going to be in there. You're going to play him full bore. And your boy Rojo's also made the COVID list as well. Does that do anything for Fournette?
Not really, because teams aren't really running against Baltimore very well since Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams have been back. We've seen them just shut down good backs now. So I don't really want to play Fournette. Again, he's kind of in that Jeff Wilson boat where if I have to start him, I guess, but I'm not excited about it. And it's really sad that Fournette's hit this point in his career this quick. Yeah,
it is pretty sad how he went from
basically the oldest 25-year-old of all time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's 25 going on 46.
Yeah, he's right behind Jordan Howard, because Jordan Howard's 26 going on 42.
Yeah, it is. I think Frank Gore's younger than him.
Yeah, it feels that way. All right, Daniel Jones also may be out after he came back after injury. He now may be out this week, and we saw what it did the week that he was out. It killed, pretty much their entire offense was unusable. If you've been starting, guys like Evan Ingram or Sterling Shepard, or even, at some point Slayton, you were starting him. What does that do for those guys, and Gallman for that matter too? Because they'll stack the box pretty much. Marco, I'll go to you on this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I feel like if you're relying on any of those guys, it's kind of similar to what I was talking about with the Ravens. Like, most of those wide receivers aren't consistent enough to make you a very viable team in fantasy. And so I think, those guys aren't guys that you're bummed out that you have to sit down, but you do have to sit them all at this point without Daniel Jones. Gallman, honestly, he's still fringe for me, but yeah, they're going to stack the box. And so, last week was a week where people were saying, hey, Gallman's still going to be a great play because he's been playing well. And he kind of let people down last week. So this week, we just saw the Cleveland Browns let up a ton of yards on the ground. So I think Gallman's still in consideration. But this Giants team without Daniel Jones is no good at all. So
yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah, I think you'd be Gallman would be the one that I'd be kind of worried about, because I think you're right. I think he's the one that probably people have been starting, probably gotten to the playoffs at least because they picked him up at the waiver wires. And, he'd be one I'd be worried about for sure.
Yep.
The last note I had on here, we won't even talk about it because it's not much to talk about, but Mike Gesicki missed at least one game. I don't think there's anybody that affects really. There's no tight end that I want to start in Miami. You probably weren't starting Gesicki either. He had a couple good games here, lately, but I just wanted to kind of mention that he may be out for one more game. All right, and our Pick'em contest, Ryan had an awesome week. He got 13 right last week, 13 out of 16, which is a crazy number. I thought I was doing good, and I got 10 out of 16 right. So he's taking the lead now. After me leading pretty much the entire season, Ryan has now jumped out in the lead with only a couple weeks to go. So hopefully I can make it.
4, right?
Yeah, I think I had you up at 4 at one point. Yep.
At week 10 or 11.
Yep. It's actually not been bad weeks for me. It's just been great weeks for you that you've kind of caught up. I'm getting 9 or 10 right every week. You're just getting 12 and 13, right. So you're catching up and now passing me.
Wheels are spinning.
What was that?
Wheels are spinning.
Yeah. All right, guys. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're not going to preview Week 15. We figure you already got to this point. You know what you're doing. You know who you're starting. We don't really talk about too much of the games. So we're going to start looking at the offseason already. And we're going to go team by team. And I'm going to ask Ryan and Marco one question about their offseason as far as what they're going to do with a certain player or what they're going to do with a certain position. And we'll kick it off here with the NFC East. And Marco, I'm going to go to you, and this is a pretty easy question that everybody pretty much has. Who is the quarterback next year in 2021 for the Eagles?
Gosh, man, both these guys have been, between Hurts and Wentz, both these guys were guys that I was not super excited about coming into the season. So it's a bummer that the Eagles are here. But, it's Jalen Hurts at this point, but they've got Carson Wentz. They're strapped to him right now with so much cash. So I don't know how they're going to move him, but I'm still hesitant to jump on the Hurts is the answer train because I really don't think he is a long-term answer. But for now, it seems to be he is the route they're going to be going with for the future. And I don't know how they're going to move Wentz, but that's got to be what their next move is how are we going to move all this money because they are strapped to him for a while with a good amount of cash, and that's going to be hard to move around.
Yeah, I was talking to Ryan, I think it was last week, and I said, the only way they can move him really is if they offer to pay half of his contract to whoever they trade him to, because no one's trading for that contract. So it's going to have to be a situation where the Eagles are going to take a hit some way, somehow, take a hit, send him to a team that's got tons of cap space.
$44 million.
Yeah, that's
to cut him, something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's no way.
You got to find, as a Bears fan, you got to find. I hear that and I'm like, well, the Bears like to pay terrible quarterbacks a lot of money, so maybe they'll be in the market, but not really.
There you go. All right, Ryan, going to the Giants with you, and we kind of talked about this guy just a little bit, but is Daniel Jones the future in 2021? There was a question there for a while if they were going to tank for Trevor. I think that's kind of gone by the wayside. They're not getting Trevor Lawrence in the draft. But could they pick up another quarterback to replace Jones, who's been okay. He's not been what we thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season. What are your thoughts on Daniel Jones?
I think Daniel Jones is starting quarterback there. They traded up to get him. They've invested in it. Like I said, they're set to pick 10th which definitely knocks out Lawrence, definitely knocks out Fields. You're looking at Zach Wilson or Trey Lance if they make it. Are they that much of a better option than Daniel Jones? I don't know, but why not get him players around him so he has the proper opportunity? If you had somebody like Jamar Chase with him, it could change the world. Or like the coaching that's finally catch up to what he's doing and healthy. Like that team's been beat up his whole career.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's gotten a fair chance yet. I think they're still behind him. So I think he's still there in 21.
Yeah, I think point in case, we kind of saw what the offense was without him for that 1 week. I mean, they were beyond terrible in that 1 week. I think they had 100 total yards in that game. So he's definitely upgraded for what they have behind him. So sticking with the quarterback theme, we're going to go to the Washington football team. And we got Alex Smith, who's now hurt, getting up there in years as well. And obviously the major injury that he had. And they got the rookie starting the second-year player now, Haskins, starting to end the season here. Next year, is the quarterback for the Washington football team on the roster right now?
No, it is not. I truly don't think he is. I think a dream scenario for the Washington football team is if they can lure Dak Prescott that way. He is a guy who I think just would be a perfect fit for that team right now. And of course, he would maybe like a little revenge if the Cowboys don't decide to give him his money. But then, the other guy I think about that could be an option here is Sam Darnold. And I think both of those guys, Dak a little bit more obviously, but I think both those guys would be a pretty significant step up from who they have on their roster right now. Because, I mean, I'm not surprised if you found Kyle Orton wherever he is right now and threw it on the roster. He wouldn't do what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And they have talked about, I live here in the Washington, D.C. area, and they've talked about Darnold as a possibility. And they're split kind of 50-50 as to whether or not he'd be the answer or not. I mean, he has the talent. He was a first-round pick. He played for the Jets. That's his biggest knock right now is he played for the Jets. If you play for the Jets, you're probably not going to be very good. Not to mention he also played for Adam Gase, which we saw what people who leave Adam Gase tend to do very well after the fact. All right.
Yeah, if he can get a good coach, I think that's the biggest thing for Darnold.
Yep, agreed 100%. Adam Gase kills careers. And sticking with the quarterback theme, the whole NFC East is all about the quarterbacks, and we mentioned him already, but I just wrote down one name, Ryan, Dak Prescott. What happens with Dak Prescott?
I think Dak gets the deal he wants or pretty close to it in Dallas. They've seen what life's been like without Dak, and it's not pretty. Like, Zeke's taking a hit from it. They have they may have the best receiving corps in the NFL right now, and they can't do anything. He gets that team running. He's efficient. He doesn't make mistakes. He's everything they want, and he can win games. I know he hasn't got the Super Bowl yet, or because that's what they need, but quarterbacks aren't easy to find, and you're picking – I know they're picking fifth, but are they better than Dak? No. And do franchise quarterbacks grow on trees?
No.
Absolutely not. Like, you're not going to find anything better than Dak.
Yep,
Right.
I agree.
It's just case in point. Jerry Jones may make mistakes, but he's not that dumb. He's just trying to play hardball, and he's going to lose.
Yeah, he's going to lose. He probably ended up paying him more than what he offered him last year in the offseason because, there's two contracts that were signed after the fact sort of raised the bar a little bit with Deshaun Watson and Mahomes getting their money. So, yeah, I think I agree. I think the Cowboys right now, their whole roster, except for maybe their defense, at least on the offensive side of the ball, they're ready to win now. And Dak Prescott's ready to win now. They can't start over with a rookie and try to build from there. They're ready to win now. If they can get some parts in the defense, get Dak, fully healthy back, they could be a contender or at least, a really good team in the NFC. So I agree. I think
or get that O-line a little healthy too.
Yeah, good point. Because the O-line has been killing them. Poor Ezekiel Elliott can't even find any space to run anymore. All right, let's move to the NFC South, and Marco, I'll start with you in the New Orleans Saints. So we got Drew Brees, who's up there in years. He's going to retire any second now, it seems. Taysom Hill, they paid a bunch of money to. He's running the offense right now, and Jameis Winston. What is going on with his quarterbacks for 2021?
Man, honestly, I think a lot of people, except for maybe the few Taysom truthers out there, were really baffled when Winston didn't get the reins to this team when Brees went down. But I still think it's Winston. I think 2021 it's Winston. If he's still with the Saints, it's going to be him. I think we've seen the ceiling for the Taysom Hill experiment, and it's really unimpressive. It gets fantasy points, but it doesn't really do much on the football field in real life football. It's like, okay, your defense can only do so much, and we've seen the Saints defense have to step up because of how Taysom Hill's been playing, and that's been okay, but he can't be the answer for a full season and for the long haul. And Jameis Winston's still a young guy. I believe that he is a step up from Taysom for sure.
Yeah, I think that offense gets better with Jameis. Obviously, I think the turnovers is the big issue, and maybe that's what Sean Payton was kind of looking at. Like, okay, I got a good defense. I got a pretty good running game. I need a quarterback that's not going to lose games for me, and Jameis Winston can definitely lose games for you. So they put Taysom Hill back there to kind of be a placeholder until Drew Brees got back so he can, make that playoff push, and then next year it's going to be Jameis Winston if they decide to keep him on the team.
Yeah.
Ryan, we're going to the Panthers, and Mr. CMC, everybody had him number 1 overall in Dynasty and redraft. He was going number 1 pretty much everywhere. Hasn't been healthy all season. They constantly giving us the little tease that he might be ready next week, and maybe next week, and maybe next week, and it hasn't happened. Are you worried about his health next season?
No, I'm worried about him being there for this week, so I need for the Scott Fishbowl.
It's all about you.
I survived all season without him, but I'd really like him now. But I'm not worried about him. I think if he's on the team, he's still in that conversation for the 101. I think we're going to see a lesser market share for him next year. I think they learned that Mike Davis is pretty capable back, can take some of the pressure up and do about 65%, 70% of what CMC does. So that workload, if he gets 3/4 of what he had before, it's still a top 5 production because he's that elite player and that offense runs through them. And Carolina's offense might be something that looks completely different next year. They could have a new quarterback. Obviously, Crafty being back makes it. But I think you see a little less pressure on him next year, which longevity-wise, dynasty-wise, I think is a good thing. Because if he's getting 400 touches a season, it ain't going to last.
Yeah, it's never happened. I mean, I think if we look at history and guys that get that many touches, their careers are very, very short. And he's not the biggest of guys either, so he's not the one delivering all the punishment like a Derrick Henry, for example. Henry's a big guy; he's delivering punishment. CMC's a small guy; he's taking the punishment, and carrying the ball that much is just too much.
Right, and you see, I know his first injury was pretty significant, but this one's been a little shoulder injury here. You can see these bumps and bruises start to add up, where it starts to knock it off. He keeps getting that kind of work, so I think he's fine next year. He's in that top 5 overall potential, probably higher, but I think it could be a little bit less than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, agreed. Let's move over to the Falcons, and I cheated here a little bit. I said 1 question per team, but I wanted to squeeze 2 questions in here. So the health of Todd Gurley and Julio Jones, for that matter, both guys getting up there, in the NFL years age. Julio Jones has had an injury-riddled season. Todd Gurley's been a shell of himself over the last 2 years. What are your thoughts on these 2 guys, Marco?
Yeah, so, with Todd Gurley, he's a free agent after the season. They're not going to bring him back. We're seeing more than ever just how replaceable running backs are and how the NFL is viewing running backs. And he's still going to look for a team that did exactly what the Falcons did this year, who's willing to pay him maybe 1 season, maybe 2 seasons, and get him decent money. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to go find that team where he can be a piece, but really he can make some money and, get in the end zone a couple more times before he hangs up the cleats. But we've seen the end of Todd Gurley already, and it's coming faster than he would like it to come. So I think he's kind of in the twilight here. And then Julio, he's not a free agent for a couple of years until 2024. So I think he's going to be here for a good chunk of next season. I wouldn't be surprised if they explore trading him, mid to late next season. But right now, I don't know if it's really going to happen because they've got Matt Ryan, they've got Calvin Ridley. If they put anyone in the backfield at all, and Hayden Hurst decides to play a little bit, they've got offensive pieces that they can keep Julio around and compete. So I don't know why you'd want to move him yet. It's just the defense is a major issue, but we'll see. But I think Julio's around and Gurley's going to be gone. Yeah,
I think I'm with you as well. And I kind of called it in the offseason. I don't want to toot my own horn, but Julio Jones hit that age 32, and I listed a bunch of receivers. I can't think of all their names now, but Andre Johnson comes to mind. The guy he replaced, Julio, Roddy White, they all kind of fell off around that time of the time of their careers. They were all very similar type of receivers. So Julio Jones, I think, is dealing with the injury bug now. I don't think it goes away. So temper your expectations in redraft. Obviously, he drops quite a bit. If you own him in Dynasty, it's probably too late to try to sell him. So you're just going to hold on to him and hope he can have a few games good here and there. All right, let's move to the last team in the NFC South, the Bucs. And a simple question is, does Tom Brady come back for another year, Ryan?
If you'd asked me this 3 months ago, I would have told you no. But he's having kind of a good season. He's going to be close to 4,000 yards again. He's going to come close to 38, 39 touchdowns. He's been really good. He has the best weapons around him, and he's allowed to sling the ball a little bit. I can see him definitely being back next year, and he said he wants to play to 45 or 50 or some insane number.
Yeah.
And I hate that I believe him. Like, I want the wall to come, but the wall is just not coming. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question here. I don't think this will actually happen, but I'm just curious. The Bucs win Super Bowl. Does he come back next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, still does?
I think he would.
Okay. All right.
I feel like I land a little bit on the other side, and it's just like the what you said though, how you want to just doubt this guy every time a season ends.
Well, it's like literally at age 36, we're like, oh, is Brady going to retire?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's 40. Now he's 43, and he's producing. I mean, there's a bet I'm going for, too, about him being a top 12 quarterback this year.
Yes, there is.
I don't know who made it, but somebody said it was going to happen. Like, it's unbelievable, and I hate it, but it's kind of awesome now.
Yeah, that bet that he's talking about was between me and him. I had Tom Brady outside the top 12. He had him inside the top 12. We took a bet. It's not looking too good for me right now. I think he's actually top 10 right now, I believe. So unless he really falls off the last couple of games, it's not going to be good for me. All right, let's move into the NFC North, Marco, and let's go to the Packers. And they got two running backs that have been very good over their career. Both of them free agents now, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. What happens to these two guys?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll start with the lesser of these two. I think Jamal Williams comes back because I think he's willing to take a little bit of a deal here, just knowing that he's comfortable in the system and he can succeed. And I mean, he might get some offers, but I think the Packers will be able to lure him back. Aaron Jones, on the other hand, I think he's gonna head out, and he's gonna. I would love to see him go to a team like the Dolphins because they're really running back needy. Because I mean, Gaskin is, for as good as he's been this year, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and they've got a couple like gadgety guys. But I would love to see him go to a team like that. But either way, Aaron Jones is just going to get a lot of offers out in the market, and I think Jamal Williams, he might get a few, but him and A.J. Dillon, I think, are going to be a pretty nice 1-2 punch for the Packers, and I think Williams might be able to, at least for the beginning of the season, kind of get the bulk of the work until A.J. Dillon kind of takes over. So I think he'll be back with the Packers. Yeah,
I think I'm with you. I think Aaron Jones just demands too much money. I think he's shown that he's a top back in the NFL, and the Packers have been known for not paying for running backs or even receivers for that matter in some cases. So, yeah, I think Jones is definitely gone. Jamal Williams, you're probably right. He fits well there. He knows he's got a role in that offense. Probably sees Aaron Jones leave thinking that he can now be the lead back there, so he probably stays with the Packers.
Mm-hmm. I honestly, I mean, not to go too long here, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons let Gurley go, if they bring in a little bit on the second half of his career here and bring in Aaron Jones and just see what he can do with that offense.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's move into the Bears. And before the podcast, I didn't know Marco was a Bears fan, so I'm going to ask Ryan this question first, but then I want your opinion as well, Marco. I just wrote down QB situation for the Bears, Ryan. Talk about what they're going to do, because I don't think Trubisky's the answer. Obviously, Foles isn't the answer. What are they doing here?
I don't think either's the answer, but I think they're the answer right now. Like, the situation right now, picking 15 in the draft, is kind of outside that quarterback range, unless you're getting Kyle Trask, who's still a bit of a project. Free agent quarterbacks coming up. Yes, you have Dak, but like we kind of talked, he's not really out there yet. It's just not pretty. Unless they trade for somebody, I don't know, dude. don't think they're there yet. They've just kind of put themselves in that situation where they're too good to get a replacement for the hardest position to replace.
Yeah.
Like, they're just in that median right now, and I don't know what they're going to do. But I just don't know how, is more or less it.
Marco,
it just doesn't make sense how they're going to do it. I know they probably want to, but it's the how.
Right. And Marco, I was going to ask you, have you heard anything being a fan?
Yeah, well, I mean, for a lot of people around here, I know a guy that is on a lot of people's radar, but, the Bears are classically going to win the last 2 games of the season and ruin these chances. But Trey Lance is the guy that a lot of people have been talking about, and I think he would be a great fit for the Bears. But honestly, I don't know, like Ryan was saying, I don't know if they're going to be able to be in a spot to get him. And we just saw how terrible the experiment of trading up in the draft to take the quarterback went with Mitch. And so if Pace and Nagy are still around, which is a horrifying thought for Bears fans, but if they are, I don't think they're going to really try to trade up a ton to go get a quarterback. So truthfully, if it's not going to be, if Trey Lance isn't an option for us, I would love for them to, kick tires on a Sam Darnold kind of guy. But knowing the Bears, I wouldn't be surprised if they let Mitch go and they go sign someone like Ryan Fitzpatrick and they let him and freaking Nick Foles go, because that's what Nagy's doing right now. He's like rarely letting Mitch move when he's back there playing quarterback. So he wants these statue quarterbacks, and that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. Yeah. And so who knows? I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but that's a very Nagy and Pace move. Yeah. But I still got my fingers crossed for Trey Lance, so we'll see.
All right. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and just stay with you with the next team here with the Lions. And I just wrote down new head coach because I know it's relevant in fantasy because Patricia kind of killed running backs, for us for the longest time. What do the Lions do at head coach next year?
Yeah, so there's actually 2 guys that I think would be a good fit for the Lions. One is Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator for the Rams. He has really made that defense something special. And so I think he could be a solid kind of under the radar pick for these guys. But, they did just go with a defensive head coach. And so my other option here would be Kellen Moore. I think he is when the Cowboys offense has succeeded, he's been the reason. And so I think he could be a good fit there to get a guy like to get a quarterback like Matt Stafford and then have a Hawkinson and a Swift to work with. I think that would be a great spot for him to land as well.
Yeah, I would like both those options. Any option that's not Patricia would be good because, as you know, the running backs there were always impossible to figure out. You had like Garrett Blount for that 1 year that was killing all the value for Kerryon Johnson, and then you got Adrian Peterson who's like 110 years old stealing from Swift, so it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, Patricia's been a nightmare for those guys, and I'm a Bears fan, and I feel bad for the Lions, so there's that.
All right, Ryan, let's close out the NFC North with the Vikings. And Kyle Rudolph, who just missed his past game, that got Irv Smith Jr., my boy that I've been pumping up forever. His contract situation is kind of scary. I mean, he's owed $9 million in 2021, $10 million in 2022, and then $11.5 in 2023. What are they doing with Rudolph? They bring him back for another year?
I think we get one more year out of him. If you look at his contract, those numbers are terrible. But they have outs. If he gets cut this year, it's 4.5 in dead cap, which may not be worth it because he can still give you some value. But you can cut him next year after for 2.9 and then 1.4 the year after. That's a dude you can get rid of. Irv Smith needs that role. They're so heavy with using Dalvin and those 2 wide receivers. It just doesn't make sense to pay him there when you have other holes. You work on that, bolster that offensive line. Work on the defense, get them healthy, get some DBs who aren't trash there. I think they can improve, and I think next year doesn't make sense, but one more after that, he's probably done.
Yeah, I think one more year is probably accurate, and he's still a good blocker, so he still does good NFL things, just not good fancy things for us unless, he gets a few catches here and there or a random touchdown. So I think I'm with you. I think the 2022, he won't be with the team anymore.
No.
All right, NFC West, and I'm gonna go to you, Marco, on this one. And it's my team, but we have issues with running backs. We can't keep any of them healthy. We like to have 3 or 4 or 5 of them in the backfield. And I've heard Travis Etienne's name sort of linked to my team a few times. Do we draft another running back, you think, next year?
Man, so I want them to just draft a guy and commit to him, but knowing how the 49ers function as a fantasy owner, I'm like, just don't pick any of the guys I like.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they function, because they turn into great football players, but horrible fantasy players. But I do think that they will take a running back, but I think it's not going to be one of these major names up top. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but for me, I think that they could turn any running back into a decent player, and Kyle Shanahan has that ability. So I don't think they need to go necessarily with a Travis Etienne. They very well could, but I think they could get a lower kind of caliber running back in the draft. I'll put in air quotes, and turn him into a very good football player still.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's something that his father did a lot too. You know, draft these unknown guys. I mean, Raheem Mostert, for example. I mean, who the hell knew who he was?
Exactly.
He'd been cut like 7 times, and now he's a starter, and he's been playing really well when he's not injured. But yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Lynch, you know, our GM, drafts another D-line in the first round. I mean, he's done it every single year he's been a GM. Our first round pick has been D-line. So Travis Etienne may not be on the board, you know, when we draft in the second round. So I agree.
They traded Buckner just so they could take another defensive lineman.
Exactly.
Buckner's so good.
He's so good.
Yeah. Kenneth Gainwell and Michael Carter, Kenneth Gainwell and Michael Carter could be guys who fit San Francisco. I watched both of them today. They're kind of that mold. Just speed, can get the outside, add a little bit in the passing game. But it seems like you guys just like fast running backs.
Yeah.
And those guys are just pure burners.
I think another under the radar name here, because I think he opted out this season, is Kylan Hill. He might fit you guys pretty nicely as well, because he can catch the ball, and he's got pretty good speed.
Nice. That would keep. I'm gonna write those 3 names down, and keep an eye on those guys in the draft. All right, let's move to the Seahawks, Ryan. And same thing here. Let's stick with the running backs. Seahawks got a plethora of them. They got Carson, who has some issues staying healthy. Of course, they still got their rookie from a few years ago. I think he's going to be in his 3rd year now, Penny. They got the rookie from this year. They got Carlos Hyde there. Like, what are they doing with the running back situation in Seattle?
I bet it stays status quo. I think Chris Carson is a stud running back when healthy. Last 2 weeks he's played, has had a great workload, but he had his foot sprain in week 7 and missed 4 games. It takes a little bit of time to get back from something like that, especially when your game has so much cutting involved in the sharp turns. He also had an MCL sprain and a bad injury last year. Like, when healthy, it's a big if, and we can assume as of now that he will be. He's a lead back there. He's a stud. I don't like Rashad Penny that much, but he's serviceable, and Carlos Hyde's also serviceable. You can put a running back Frankenstein together if Chris Carson's not healthy and succeed, which we've seen. So I don't think it's a priority for that team. I'd like to see them, continue building the offensive line.
Yeah,
but I just don't see running backs a priority, and I don't think anybody fantasy-wise I'd want other than Carson.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And I think Russell Wilson agrees with you that he needs offensive line because he's getting murdered lately. They can't block anybody. All right, going to the Rams, Marco. I wrote this a little bit before this Thursday game, so, Akers had a huge game. But please tell me that Akers is their lead back next year.
He's got to be. And it's funny because one of the guys on 14P with me, he's a huge Rams fan. And the thing that he always says is he's cautiously optimistic about Cam Akers. I think it's pretty evident that he will be the guy. He actually comps Cam Akers to David Montgomery in a lot of ways. And I mean, being a Bears fan, I think that makes David Montgomery sound a little bit good, but but truthfully, I don't see any way they go anywhere else but Cam Akers. He's been, in the last 2 games, he's been a stud. And it's like Sean McVay just realized he's on his team. And he's like, oh, wait, let's start using him because he's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, even if you look at efficiency numbers, when he wasn't getting the ball very often, he was the most efficient running back. He just wasn't getting the ball enough. And they finally realized, oh, wait a minute, this guy's pretty good. We drafted him. Let's feed him the rock and see what happens. And good things have been happening. So I'm a Cam Akers owner in a bunch of my leagues, and I want to see him be the lead back there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish off the NFC, Ryan, with the Cardinals, and we're sticking with the running backs one more time. But Kenyon Drake, he signed a 1-year deal this past year, so he's a free agent again. You think Cardinals bring him back?
I think they'll try, and I think they're going to try to lowball him. and probably succeed because he really didn't do much. He's put up like fantasy relevant games for us, but it's not been efficient. And he's in an offense that it should be because of how wide open it is and the way they pass the ball. I think they get him for cheap, but I also think they bring in some reinforcements with him. It could be a dip or sell opportunity fan, especially with like right before free agency.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, that wraps up the NFC, guys. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll tackle the AFC, so hold tight. What's up, everyone? Jeff Lambert here, and I want to tell you about Society Socks. Is your sock drawer kind of boring? I know mine is. Society Socks is a men's sock subscription company that sends 2 pairs of exclusively designed socks to your door every month. These socks are made of a warm, soft, and comfortable blend of combed cotton, guaranteed to make your feet feel and look great. At the office or the bar, your socks are sure to be a hit. You might be wondering, why are they called Society Socks? Well, that's the best part. Socks are one of the most needed and least donated items at homeless shelters. Society Socks aims to change that. With every pair of socks purchased, another pair of socks is donated to homeless shelters. So on top of receiving awesome socks every month and amping up your sock drawer, you are actively making a positive change in society. With 2 surprise pairs of socks arriving at your door every month, you'll begin to grow an impressive sock collection. Visit mysocietySocks.com/armchair and enter our promo code ARMCHAIR to get 50% off your first subscription. Put an end to boring socks and subscribe today. Again, that's mysocietysocks.com/armchair and use promo code ARMCHAIR. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Ryan and Marco, and we're about to do one question for every AFC team for the offseason coming up, and we have the AFC kicking everything off, and I'm going to go to you, Ryan. I just wrote down one name, Cam Newton. What do the Patriots do with Cam Newton?
This might be one of the hardest questions I've seen on here so far. I have no idea what the Patriots are doing ever. It makes sense, I guess, that they keep him because they're somehow winning more games than they should right now. But they're going to get him cheap, and I don't know if another team will want him because he hasn't really done that much this season. And I don't know where the Patriots are going to get replaced. And again, they're picking 16 right now, and the way their schedule looks, they could be closer to that 20 range, which makes getting a quarterback harder. They're not normally known as a team to trade up. He could be there next year, but I'd have, if I'm a betting man, which maybe a little bit, I'm not betting anything to do with that quarterback situation. It's a nightmare. Everything with that team is a nightmare. Nobody knows anything. We love Nikhil Harry this offseason. What's he done for us? Nothing. I'm avoiding myself of all Patriots questions all offseason.
Yeah, exactly. And
like you asked him, it's not answering them.
Yeah, Damian Harris has been killing me too because I had him on my list, and I'm like, oh man, this guy's getting 100 yards a game, but when they get down to the red zone, it's Cam Newton getting the touchdowns. It pisses me off every time. All right, let's go to the Dolphins, Marco. And you mentioned this guy earlier, but is Gaskins the guy there in Miami next year?
He is not the guy, and I'm a little bit bummed by this because I was excited when he came out of college. I was like, man, if he gets opportunity, he could be decent. And he didn't get it for a while, and then he finally did. He did something, but he just hasn't been on the field enough for the Dolphins to really be locked into him. And honestly, I was surprised because I thought last year when the Dolphins had that pick at like pick 30, instead of picking that corner Iggy they took, I thought they were going to take Swift, and they didn't. And so I think this year is the year they go ahead and take a running back. There's a lot of running backs in this draft that I think are going to be solid at the very least, and above average. And so I think they're going to take a running back this year, and Gaskin might stick around, but his value is going to be pretty low.
Yeah, I think Gaskins is the kind of guy that, you get that, they draft that rookie guy, and maybe he starts the season off, Gaskins does, as the man, trade him away, get as much value as you can for him, and then the rookie takes over eventually. But yeah, I think Gaskins just isn't exciting. He's doing what they ask him to do. He's serviceable, but he's not exciting, and they want exciting there. They want someone that can actually win some games for them, so I agree.
Yeah, he feels like the guy that Doug Peterson's going to bring in to ruin Miles Sanders some more.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Exactly. All right, move to the Bills, and I just wrote down John Brown, of course, who can't stay healthy. He's still going to be under contract next year, but I think his dead cap drops significantly next year. They got Gabe Davis, the rookie, who's played really well in his stead. Is John Brown a Bill next year, Ryan?
I believe he's a Bill, but I don't think he's a fantasy relevant one. Like keeping him on the team makes sense. He's under contract, and player they're letting Josh Allen air it out. But that passing game revolves around Stephon Diggs, and Gabriel Davis has proven more than enough that he can stretch the field and make big plays. Those are his two guys now. It was cool while it lasted for John Brown, but he's going to be 31 next year. It just doesn't make sense for him to be part of that offense, but he's probably not going to get more money than Buffalo will give him. So I bet he restructures and stays there on a discount.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think his injuries is kind of what does him in a little bit because he's been productive when he's been healthy. He just, he stayed healthy, I think, with y'all with the Ravens for a while. He stayed healthy last year. When he's healthy, he's great. But we saw injuries, kind of did him in when he was in Arizona, and now it's kind of doing him in Buffalo as well. So I do think the Bills probably keep him as a veteran on the bench, but I think Gabe Davis has that job next year. All right.
Yeah, and he was fantasy relevant because he was those years. Like, there was no number one receiver.
Good point.
There's an absolute one receiver right now.
Yep, good point. All right, move to the Jets, and I'm sorry, Marco, I had to give you the Jets, but the Jets.
All right, I'll forgive you.
Yeah, they're probably taking, Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, that means Darnold's probably on his way out. Adam Gase, I can't imagine that he's back. Are the Jets going to be fantasy relevant at all next year? Do you think there's anybody? Obviously, people are going to take Trevor Lawrence because it's Trevor Lawrence, and he'll be good down the road. But if we're thinking just for next year, is there anybody you want to kind of look at as a buy low in the offseason?
Honestly, man, I think it really depends if Mekhi Becton can continue to develop on the O-line. Not just him, but if they can strengthen that O-line a little bit, I think Crowder and Mims still will have some interesting value because what we might end up seeing is that similar to Herbert and Burrow this year, Lawrence could be throwing 40, 50 times a game, and they're going to be losing most of these games, and I think that could make, in PPR leagues, guys like Mims and Crowder somewhat viable. And I like Mims as a player. I don't think he's overly special, but I think he's a good enough player where if he starts to develop some chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, they're going to be losing enough games where he could be a garbage time flex with upside.
Yeah, I like that. I like Mims a lot, actually. He was one of my favorite receivers coming into the draft last year, and then the Jets took him and killed his value for me, but I do have him in a few leagues. I think he can be big if he can get out from under Adam Gase.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the AFC South and the Texans with David Johnson and that ugly-ass contract with that stupid-ass trade that they did. Ryan, what are they doing with David Johnson?
I guess you kind of have to roll with them. They're not in this situation to really go get a running back. They have a first-round pick this year. I think they traded some other picks away. We're going to see a change in the guard, though. They're interviewing new GMs. Hopefully Louis Riddick and Bellamy as their coach. But everything's going to change there. But I don't know if running backs can be a priority because they have so many needs. Their defense is non-existent. Their offensive line is a little bit rough. It's getting better. And they don't have a legit wide receiver one now for Watson. I think they're not there yet where they need to draft a running back. It shouldn't be a priority. And I guess you just roll with David Johnson for what you're paying him and pray he stays healthy.
Yeah.
Maybe get a late round guy, like 6th, 7th round guy to hopefully give you some value if something happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think David Johnson is sort of that. He's just a guy now. He's just the Carlos Hyde from a few years ago with Houston, where he's just going to be serviceable enough to get by as long as he can stay healthy.
He can do what they want.
Go ahead, Marco.
I wonder if they kick the tires on a Marlon Mack or a Gus Edwards this season. Those are two guys I'm interested to see if they land up in somewhere like Houston because they're both free agents, and Marlon Mack's still a young dude, and who knows what if David Johnson's going to be able to stay healthy. So I think those are two guys that they could target and still be somewhat viable for fantasy and NFL wise too.
Yeah, good point. And both those guys are not known for catching the ball, and Houston's not known for throwing the ball to a running back, so they'll fit right in perfectly in that offense. Good point. All right, going to the Colts here, and I wrote down just one name here, Marco. Phillip Rivers. What did they do with Phillip Rivers? I mean, he's basically the one kind of. I mean, he's been good the past few weeks, but for most of the season, he's been kind of holding them back a little bit.
Yeah, I think Jacob Eason gets the shot next year, and I think Eason could be a decent player at the NFL level. Fantasy wise, I don't really know what he's going to do for you, but I like some of the weapons there in Pittman and stuff. So I don't think Rivers is going to be long for the Colts. Maybe he gets a vet deal somewhere else, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rivers might be done after this season and Eason gets his shot.
I would love that because I own Eason pretty much everywhere. I loved Eason coming
Same
out,
here.
and I just bought him everywhere, thinking that Rivers had at least maybe 1 year, if two, if not that. I think he'd be gone too. So I love it. All right, moving to the Titans, and Ryan, I wanted you to get this one because this is my boy that I've been hyping up for years, and he just kept burning me, and he's finally good. The Titans did not pick up his 5th-year option, so he'll be a free agent. But Corey Davis, does he stay with the Titans or does he go somewhere else?
I think he goes somewhere else. I think he's performed well enough this year, and there's teams in need of receivers where he can ask for a good bit of money. Like, he's balled out when he's had the chance. I think he's a high-end wide receiver too for a team. I don't know. I think we learned he's not the man by himself, but when he has that Robin role, he's fantastic. So I think he gets a lot of money somewhere, like how we saw like a Mohamed Sanu when he left Cincinnati type thing.
Yeah.
And real quick, I just want to touch one thing I had to look up for Houston. They're $12 million over the cap going into next season.
Ugh.
So them signing even Gus Edwards might be a challenge.
That's going to be tough.
They're in a terrible situation.
Oof.
And cutting David Johnson is a $12 million cap hit after.
Oh
no. Actually, you know what? They can't cut him. He's only $2 million in dead cap. He might get cut.
Oh yeah, David Johnson could be gone or restructure his contract.
So I apologize for saying that he's probably the man next year. That frees up $7 million in cap space for that team over 12.
Yeah, he's dead.
There you go.
Dead man walking right there.
Dead man walking.
All right, let's finish up the AFC South with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the situation they have at QB. I mean, we thought that Minshew was going to be the guy. He gets hurt, and obviously they haven't been good since. Minshew, I think, is back, or he was back last week, healthy. He didn't play. What are they doing next year with Jacksonville's quarterback situation, Marco?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious. I think everyone knows it that it's gonna be Justin Fields unless something catastrophic happens in this offseason process. It's gonna be Justin Fields. He should be able to take the reins here. And now that James Robinson has kind of exploded onto the scene. DJ Chark is still there, believe it or not. And Visca is there as well. And even Colin Johnson. I think he's got a decent supporting cast that is going to be fun to watch next year, even if it's not a big explosive year for the Jaguars offense. It could be a step in a really good direction for them.
Yeah, I kind of compare it a little bit to the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals, when Burrow came in, he had weapons galore, and I think that they're going to be in the same situation. We got a good running back, some good receivers, some good young talent there, so he could step right in and be a really good fantasy quarterback to start off.
Yeah,
disrespect to Keelan Cole right there.
Yeah, we did kind of. We didn't even mention Keelan Cole.
that was not on purpose. Wink, wink.
All right, AFC West. Let's go to the champion Chiefs. And Sammy Watkins is a free agent. He was a free agent this coming up year, or last year as well. They signed him for 1 year. He'll be a free agent again. Does he re-up again, you think, that with the Chiefs, Ryan?
I don't think he does, because their team is going to be balancing that cap with the $300 million they paid, or no, $500 million. $500 million. Patrick Mahomes, I feel like you have a place you can better spend money than Sammy Watkins, unless he takes a cheap contract, which at his age he may not feel like he can. And they have Robinson, and they don't need him.
Yeah,
they really don't. I'd like to say it, but Sammy's going to be a free agent and be hurt for a whole new team next year.
Yeah, exactly. He'll not play for somebody else.
Right, exactly.
He will not play for another team next year. It's going to be awesome.
He'll be the new Will Fuller in Houston, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. All right, let's move to the Raiders here. And Derek Carr, who actually's had a pretty good NFL season. He's been okay for fantasy, but we know Derek Carr, he hasn't shown that he can be the guy to sort of take them to the next level. His cap hit next year is $22 million, but if they cut him, it's only $2 million to the cap. Any chance Derek Carr gets cut, coming up here?
I don't think so. I think he's going to be a Raider for a little while longer, because where they're going to be picking in drafts and just what they have in weaknesses on this team right now, I don't think it's worth cutting him and dealing with whatever you have left in Marcus Mariota or whoever's available when you can pick in drafts, when you need to solidify some defense, get some guys healthy, who can stay healthy, that is. So I think Carr's going to be there still.
Yeah, like I said, he's been serviceable. He definitely has been. He's been a better NFL quarterback than a fantasy quarterback, and people don't always correlate the two of those together. But I mean, they are winning with him. They've got a pretty good young core of receivers, good running back there. So there's no reason to sort of shake it up right now, I don't think. Brian, let's go to the Broncos. And I know me and you are both high on this guy coming into the season. He's been injured and in and out of the lineup and hasn't really played very well. But Drew Lock, what's his status for next year? You think he's still the starting quarterback?
Yes, and I feel like you put this just to get me riled up. Like, how have we not given this dude a single chance? His entire offensive line's been beat up all year. It's been a rotation of guys in front of him. He hasn't had Cortland Sutton, who's a star. His two receivers he's been going to are just rookies learning the situation. Noah Fant's been hurt. Their defense is bad, and he's been hurt. How are we jumping to the conclusion where he sucks?
Yeah.
He shows flashes. Have some freaking patience. The talent's there. They obviously built a team around him for him to succeed with all the young receivers they got, the young tight ends, the running backs there. The team's built for him to do well. It's just that team needs to be healthy. He could be a steal next year, so just relax.
Yeah, I think it's a buy low situation right now. If you got luck, if you can get Lock in a trade, into dynasty leagues, I think it is a buy low. We kind of saw what he can potentially do last week. I think he was the highest scoring fantasy quarterback last week, or he was at least before the Monday night game.
Yeah, he had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, he
has talent. It's just you got to relax a little with these young guys.
Yep.
Especially coming from like Mizzou, where he only played shotgun.
Yeah. And
a spread offense has no NFL concepts. It's just guys open on screen passes. Just some freaking patience. Look how Josh Allen has jumped leaps and bounds.
Yep, good point.
And they have very similar skill sets when it comes to some of that.
Yep, I like it. All right, let's finish off the AFC West with the Chargers, Marco. And my question is, can Eckler be the lead back? I think coming into the season, we thought he was going to be the lead back. He's been hurt. It's not the first time in his career he's been hurt. Can he be the lead guy next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because I think the idea of a lead back is just so different now than what it used to be. And so with Josh Herbert, Justin, thank you. I was like, that didn't sound right. Work together, brain. You got this. No, yeah, Justin Herbert. With Justin Herbert, he honestly can be a lead back in the sense of how they're using him because they're targeting him 9, 10, 12 times a game. I think he had 16 targets a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So, he can be the Chargers lead back, but he's not your old school lead back where he's going to see even 15, 16 carries because that's just not who he is. I don't know really if it would be smart for them not to bring in some sort of run heavy running back who's not really a pass catcher. But if they could do that, he could last the whole season, I think. But since they haven't had a strong guy to be able to come in and fill that role, he's not going to be able to last the whole season. So it's kind of like a yes-ish, it's one of those.
Yeah, I think they brought in Josh Kelly to be that guy, and he just couldn't be that guy. So, and then they had our boy Kalen Ballage, who Ryan just absolutely loves. Can't stop talking about him. Kalen
He's
Ballage,
the worst running back in the
NFL. Yeah, they had Kalen Ballage there for a little while, but yeah, I think you're right. I think they got to get some kind of timeshare there that actually works. Maybe they find somebody in free agency. Maybe David Johnson comes over there, and he's that guy. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the AFC North, Ryan, and your Ravens. They need an alpha receiver. Do you agree with that question? And who do you think they might go after?
I mean, how the hell don't you? Like, oh my God, our number one receiver, Marquise Brown, had 3 drops on Monday night.
Yeah.
3.
Does that not
And,
make
like,
it good? I don't.
I'm just I've been just rage watching wide receivers so far for the draft. Pipe dreams Jamar Chase. I think he goes top 10, so they don't really have a chance there because he's an absolute superstar. Guys who fit, both Alabama guys are awesome, and I don't know how you pass them, but they don't fit Baltimore's needs. Rashad Bateman's a guy who I love. He can stretch the field. He's 6'1". He plays strong. I love what he brings. Terrence Marshall from LSU, 6'3". He's exactly what they need. He plays over the top. He's what Dez was supposed to be if Dez was 25 and still good. So there's a lot of guys. First round guys, really it's going to be Bateman, Marshall, or Chase who would fit. If not, they're waiting again, which you're taking a discount there. I think they have to go early 4-1. They really do. And there's a couple big-time wide receivers in those guys who could. And I'd love to see them make a run at Corey Davis.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because Corey Davis would be the one that I think would fit in there perfectly, I think.
My buddy, who's also a Raiders fan, the year before Corey Davis was drafted, that's all we wanted them to take that year was him. We wanted him on the Ravens so bad, and if he came back around, I'd be extremely happy about it because I think he complements Hollywood very nicely.
Yep, I agree. That would be a perfect fit
Yeah, I
there.
think that's a good call too.
Like,
Go ahead, Marco.
So you don't need a true wide receiver 1. You just need a 1A or 1B to go with a 1B.
Yeah.
Another rookie wide receiver that he's kind of not the most hyped guy, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, man, I think he would fit that offense really well because he could fill that Willie Snead role to a higher degree. I think his upside's pretty high right now.
What was the name? I didn't catch the name.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay, all right.
He's a USC guy. He's 6'1", 195, but I think he's underrated right now.
He had a week ago 4 touchdowns and 4 catches in the first quarter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
He's a little underrated, I think, and he's one of the guys who I'm looking at the back end of like rookie drafts and stuff. And if he ended with the Ravens, man, I think that would be an awesome fit.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Steelers, Marco. How much longer is Big Ben going to play? And do you look at some of the guys that are on that team as a sell now, thinking that he might not make it a few more years? Because he's been playing great this year. He's awesome. He makes the receivers really good, but he's talked about retirement for like 3 years, it seems.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that he will be around for at least 1 more year, maybe 2. And really, what I think is if you can move. A lot of people love Deontay, but I am really frustrated by his like 12.5% drop rate. And so, that's just a guy who people are all in on that you could probably sell for good value. And that's not even a Big Ben related thing technically. But I think Big Ben will be around for another year for sure. And then maybe another year after that. But I think he's safe to be chucking it to Claypool and co for another little bit here.
All right.
Big Ben is uncuttable.
Uncuttable.
Like the Steelers can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
So right now, he costs them double to cut than to keep him on the team.
So keep him.
So right now this year, he had $23 million and dead cap was $46 million. Next year, he's getting paid $41 million. Dead cap's $22 million. Steelers are $20 million over the cap. So Juju's probably going to end up being odd man out there.
Yeah.
Because they're projecting him around that 12 to 15 range. He's another guy I wouldn't mind Baltimore going at, even though he's the rivalry. But he's somebody I wouldn't mind as a good fit there as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Good call.
It just pains me to say it because, my feelings about that team.
All right. Let's go to the Browns and Ryan, OBJ. What are the Browns doing? Is he a Brown next year? I think we all pretty much still think he's going to be there next year.
They're better without him. I feel like Baker's better without him because I feel like he does better when he doesn't have that pressure to go to that one guy. Some quarterbacks just can't function with a true alpha receiver who forces that. I think he's out. I don't know exactly the details how it's going to happen. But I'm sure there's not a shortage of teams who'd want a receiver like him and offer up a good bit for him. So I think it's a 50-50 chance he's on the team next year, but it makes sense to get rid of him.
Yeah, I think I'm with you as well. I own him in Dynasty, and I wish that I could sell him, but I'm not getting any value for him whatsoever right now because who knows where he ends up, and it's ugly right now. If you own OBJ, you probably just stuck with him for currently. All right, let's finish off the 32 teams with the Bengals, Marco. And I've heard projections that Joe Burrow may not even be able to play at the start of next year and possibly not even to the middle of the year. At that point for the Bengals, is it even worth it to bring Joe Burrow back? Does he even play next year at all?
Yeah, I've been hearing some of that too. So I think if he's not able to play until, week 8 or 9, if I'm the Bengals, I'm doing my best to be patient and just saying, hey, take a seat. We're going to get another absolute stud in the draft because we don't have a quarterback. And just take advantage of that. I mean, they still have so many holes on defense. They have an offensive line that's played better this year, but still has a lot of spots where it can improve. So if I'm the Bengals, I'm saying, if you're not going to be back till midway or, second half, just take a seat this season. But I think the biggest obstacle here is that Joe Burrow's going to want to play.
Yeah.
He's just a competitor. So I think the biggest thing would be getting him to agree to not do it. Maybe he gets a couple games in at that point, but I would say don't do it as a Bengals,
right,
supporter there.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think Burrow, like you said, he's going to want to play. He's a competitor. And I think Ryan's pointed out a couple times that Burrow's not your typical, rookie quarterback. He's a lot older than these other guys. So, waiting that other year is just one more year that he's going to be, aging. So I know he's not old by any means, but, by quarterback years, he's older than most of the rookies. I think he's even older than some of the rookies that are coming out this year. Or I'm sorry, some of the rookies that came out last year. So
I think Lamar's younger than him.
I was just about to say he's older than Lamar, and Lamar's already got an MVP under his belt.
Yep.
But so, I mean, just be cautious with this guy because he's your future. You don't need to mess it up right now.
Yep. All right, that wraps up the 32 teams. It is now time for our Forgotten Fantasy Player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Marco, who you got for your Forgotten Fantasy Player? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, there we go. I was just saying I'm pulling up my notes on this guy, but it is Doug Martin.
Nice.
And here's my Doug Martin love. So it was rookie year. He got me in locked down my playoff spot, and it was awesome because he had that one game against the Raiders where he put up, I think he had like 4 touchdowns. He had over 200 yards. I mean, it was like 55 fantasy points. And so he's a guy who didn't do much after that. But that game, I remember watching it, just freaking out and going crazy about it. I'm like, this is it. I've made it. This is my guy forever.
Yep.
And then that quickly faded. But man, for that moment, he was incredible.
Yeah, he definitely was. I liked Doug Martin. I actually had him that rookie year as well, and I won a chip with him as well. So I got a special place in my heart for Doug Martin, even though he didn't do much after that. I think he had a couple more good. I think he rotated years. He went bad year and then a good year and then a bad year and then a good year.
And I think that was the joke. It was like it's an off year, so this is his year.
That's exactly right. All right, that wraps the podcast up, guys. Let's go around the room real quick. Give us where we can follow you at. So if you want to plug anything, plug your show, obviously, Marco. We'll go to you first.
Yeah, so, thanks for having me, guys. This has been a blast. But you guys can follow me over on Twitter at Marco_14P. And you can follow the podcast at 14P_pod. And then you can always find our rankings and articles, 14personnel.com. But you can also find my content, like Jeff said earlier, at goingfor2.com. And I'm gonna be releasing tons of Dynasty stuff with them. So be on the lookout for that.
Great stuff. Ryan.
Find me on Twitter at Foss534. First name, last name, right here. Foss before that. Find me here every Wednesday. My God, I forgot the day we podcast on. And I am now going to be writing with the Draft Bible as well. We made that announcement this week. Very excited about that. Working with some great guys there. So, yeah, follow me on Twitter. All right. And wish me luck in Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, represent. Always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We got some great things coming up for this offseason. Like I said, this is our last show for 2020. We will resume January 6th. We're going to have a great guest coming on. We already got him booked, so he'll be on. And with that said, guys, have a great holiday. Have a great New Year. Ryan, Marco, both of y'all, have a great holiday, great year, and we'll see you in the next year, guys.
You too, man.